Cava Group, the company emerging from its quiet period following its initial public offering. That means that we've got a bunch of analyst initiations. Piper Sandler, Jefferies, among those initiating coverage on the quick service chain with a buy and an overweight rating, respectively. And looking at some of the other calls out here, it looks like JP Morgan also initiated with an overweight, and it looks like Stifel, did we talk about Stifel, has a buy rating? Citi, it looks like, is the only I see listed. Bloomberg compiled some of these. That's the only one that has a neutral rating here. But the way that this works, for those who don't know, is when a company has an IPO, they hire banks to help them do the IPO, to underwrite the IPO. Then following the IPO, those banks are not allowed, their sell-side researchers are not allowed to initiate coverage of the firm within a certain period of time following the IPO. So that's where we are, and that's why you now have these initiations. Yeah,
we've been tracking Cava closely going into and now even after its initial public offering, and now comes the marathon, of course, that just never really ends. But for Cava, you've been taking a look at shares. Of course, they came in and ended their first trading day as a publicly traded company well above, almost double what they had set forth as their pricing. And then since then, there's been more of this appetite, pun fully intended, I guess, here. It's Monday, why not? We got to kick off the week somehow. For investors to look at this as another lunch or perhaps even dinner type of play, and that throws them into some of the same conversations that we've had around Chipotle even. Right. And so if there is that type of multiple that investors continue to look at this with and see some type of growth potential to really get into at least the weekly cadence of purchases like they do on a Chipotle, then Cava perhaps sits in some good company there.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the phrases that the Piper Sandler analyst brought up. They said many have dubbed it the Mediterranean Chipotle. If you haven't been to Cava, that pretty well captures it. They said that does set a high bar. Andy Barish, friend of the show over at Jefferies, talked about the blue sky scenario, if you're comparing it to that of a Chipotle, would be a total addressable market of 7,000 units, which is what we see for a Chipotle. I mean, that would be kind of the utmost scenario. So we'll see what happens.
And it's totally right. What has Chipotle done? They've set the model for how consumers are looking to be engaged with, especially beyond just this fast food service that McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, all the Yum brands and so forth have been able to move forward with. They're now, because of what Chipotle has set forward, it's a different type of customer interaction. They want to know that the food is fresh, that there is nutrition behind what they're eating as well. And so in that flight towards nutrition, Cava has positioned itself even within that. As Chipotle had really set that model, Cava has been able to then kind of annex themselves to that broader way of thinking for consumers and now for investors as well.